Freddie Arredondo with Cave B Estate Winery. I'm the winemaker here. Basically, I do, as far as the winemaking goes, I do it all here. From cellar master to winemaking. I do have a cellar master that I work with, and it's basically the two of us on the winemaking team, doing lots of different varieties of wine. About 15 different varietals that we're doing right now, combination of whites and reds. Yeah, I was, this is a career change, and before getting into winemaking I was a chef, and I kind of worked all over. I started cooking at 13 years old. My parents had a restaurant in Southern California, worked there all through junior high and high school, and then after high school went to culinary school in Arizona, and worked in Arizona, then left Arizona and worked in Las Vegas, Hawaii, Los Angeles, and then left LA and went to Italy, and was in Italy for about 9 months, and that's actually where I met my wife on a culinary program. And my wife and I became very, very good friends, and we just moved from there, and here we are now. My wife is actually the daughter of Vince and Carol Bryan, who are the owners here at Cave B. And so this was kind of a sudden career change. When we first met and got married, I had these grandiose visions of opening a restaurant and, have a, husband and wife restaurant team. And as time went on, I just got way more into wine, and just wanted to learn more about it, and just kind of was really soaking everything up, having to do with wine. And on one of our trips out here to the family property, on the drive back home to Seattle, I just looked over and said, I think I want to become a winemaker. And she just looked back and said, okay, let's do it. So it's kind of history from there.
And you're living in Ellensburg and making the commute to here.
Living in Ellensburg is about a 45-minute commute, so just enough time to get my mind set before getting to work and think of all the day's activities, and then on the way home it's enough time to unwind and spend some time with my wife and 2 great kids.
Now, I would imagine you probably get some pretty good seats for concerts here.
Sometimes, yeah, we can sometimes get some good seats. Yeah.
Do you have any favorite acts that you've seen here over the years?
Dave Matthews is always a favorite. I mean, it's always, I don't get tired of going to watch a Dave show. We've gone the last 4 years, gone to at least one night of a Dave Matthews show. So I don't get tired of that, and some of the other standouts are probably Lenny Kravitz and Pink was a standout show, and it's kind of harder. There's so many great ones that it's hard to pigeonhole and just name a few. The history of the property, basically the way the property came about is that Vince and Carol, Vince was a neurosurgeon in Seattle. And they always wanted to have vineyards. Basically, he needed, and Carol needed an outlet. And they've always been very much hands-on people, hardworking, and just they need to get dirty and get out there and get active. So their vision was to have a premier Washington vineyard. So what they did is they went on multiple trips to Europe and traveled through different vineyards in Europe and spoke with vignerons and got all of the information as far as soil types, elevations, rainfall, proximity to water, all of these different slopes and aspects and all of these different things that they spoke with viticulturists in Europe. And they came back to the US with essentially a list of criteria for a piece of property, looking for different soil types, looking for proximity to water, which we're right on the Columbia River, and we're on the eastern slope of a north-south river, which is what you want. And looking for all of this whole list of things, and out of the blue, months and months and months after they gave the list to various real estate agents, they got a phone call and said, hey, we think we found your property. So they came out to the property, looked at it, and when they first came out here, it was nothing but a 75-acre alfalfa field and sagebrush and rock and lichen, and that's about it. But with that, the everything else was there: the elevation, the proximity to water, the soil types, everything that they were looking for, the arid weather, the cool nights, And with that, they started planting vines. In 1980 was their first planting. And that planting consisted of Gewürztraminer, Chenin Blanc, and Chardonnay. And it's just moved on from there. They had a previous winery that was associated with the amphitheater originally, called Chateaubriand. And that winery was what spurred the Gorge Amphitheatre. And since then, the amphitheater no longer belongs to them. They don't own it anymore. But they do still enjoy great shows there every year. But we do have other plantings that are pretty similar in age. I mean, we've got Cabernet that's 23 years old. We've got some Merlot that's about 20 some odd years old as well. We've got Chardonnay that's in its 20s. So we have some pretty old vines for quite a few different varieties. Riesling as well. Okay. Yeah.
The acreage and case production?
Acreage, we currently have about 104 acres to vinifera grapes. Total production, we are producing right around 5,000 cases, a little bit over 5,000 cases. And we also grow fruit to sell. We don't process all of the fruit we grow. I started here at Cave B in 2006. 2006 was my first crush year, and I've been here since then. Last year in 2008, it was my first vintage on my own here as winemaker instead of assistant winemaker. And when I was in Walla Walla going through the enology and viticulture program, obviously all of the instructors there at the institute. And also I worked at Cougar Crest Winery with Dave and Debbie Hansen and Brian Carlson. Fantastic time there. They really allowed me to do a lot and branch out and experiment. And I guess they allowed me to do a lot more than most enology and viticulture students typically are allowed to do. So I'm very thankful to them for all of their input and help on my path. And also, while here at Cave B, I worked with Rusty Figgins. And I learned some fantastic tricks from him as well. And we continue our friendship, and he's moved into the distilling world, and I've just kind of kept along with the winemaking. But those are pretty much my mentors in the winemaking world. The Sagecliff label and the Cave B label, they're essentially, there's no difference in the two as far as quality of winemaking and winemaking input. For lack of a better term, they're pretty much the same. What we try and do for the Sagecliff label is we try and make a red wine, that's a little bit more drinkable now. It's a little bit more fruit forward, something that you would buy at the store, take home for dinner tonight. For the Sagecliff red, for the Sagecliff white, it's an unoaked Chardonnay, and it's fantastic, gorgeous, great summer drinking wine. And that wine is also made for a drink now kind of a thing. Whereas the Cave B wines, those are, in the Bordeaux varietals, they're geared a little bit more towards maybe cellarability and some aging life. Essentially, the winery and the resort, they're independent businesses, both owned by the Bryans, but they operate independently from one another. The winery, I guess, to a certain degree, is an amenity of the inn, if you will, and vice versa. So it's not one business, but we try and make it feel for the guest that comes here. We certainly operate like one business, and we work very, very closely together, and we are one big team.